For centuries, migration was seen as a dramatic event. Leaving your home was a tragedy for the society and for the family. This perception was based on the idea that there was no better life to live than the one in the place where you were born. Today, a new way of perceiving migration has emerged, thanks to new economic and cultural circumstances, but above all, to the new communication technology. The network of relationships of the migrant can be kept alive thanks to this new technology. Furthermore, traveling has become very easy. The migratory experience can become a value in itself. It can become a resource. The European community was founded also as a reaction to the idea that migration was bad.
I used to live in US for a long time, and I came back to my homeland, Czech Republic, where I live right now.
I used to live abroad 3 times, and 14 months ago I moved back to Hungary again.
I was born in Eritrea but grew up in Germany. I moved to London 4 years ago.
That's the Global Money Express. We are transferring money to Poland and other Eastern European countries.
Hello, I'm Simone. I've been living in London for 10 years. I work for the BBC, BBC Radio.
So my name is Laszlo Kis. I'm at the age of 40. I was born in Serbia, then Yugoslavia. I'm a triple citizen of Serbia, Hungary and Australia.
The reason I moved was purely because of simply I fell in love with my husband.
I went here to do a course at the London College of Fashion, and then I fall in love and I met the man of my life and I stayed here.
Just came here out of interest to London for a couple of months, but then I liked it and I stayed longer.
I'm an astrophysicist studying stars and planets around other stars. I was doing research. I was a research fellow at the University of Sydney in Australia, and in 2009 I returned to Hungary.
Most of our customers are local Polish community members. They're coming here to send money to their families and friends in Poland. There is some group which decide to stay here, like me, for example.
We got married, we had a first baby, and together we decided that it's going to be much easier and convenient for us to move to London, as I speak relatively good English and my husband would not speak Polish at all, so it would be really difficult for him to find any type of job back in my home country.
The concept of adaptation to a new habitat belongs to both biology and anthropology. It refers to the faculty to change the metabolic, physiological and behavioral processes of organisms, allowing them to adapt to the environment in which they live. Adaptation is not a matter of intelligence or physical power. It is a specific attitude of the single person and can be more or less developed according to the individual. The idea that moving within Europe was a simple thing to do has proven to be an illusion for many people who later instead suffered serious difficulties of adaptation. The frontiers between the European countries do not exist anymore, but a sense of belonging to a new community has still to be built up. Unfortunately, This does not seem to interest the peoples of Europe very much.
Leaving your home country is never easy. You know, around 28, at the age of 30, people like going around and experience new opportunities.
My reason to move by the time was that I wanted to go abroad. And my experience so far was very good. London is a very exciting city. However, it's time to go back to my own country at some point.
I finished university. I decided to go back to US because I just saw it as a good opportunity. I started managing as well parking lots around the resort. I started managing the little kiosks. I started helping other students from abroad, not only from Czech.
After the 7 years that most of my friends are here, I try to talk to my family in Poland, but not so often as every day. I do this like every week. Yeah, but I'm still in contact with most of my, the best friends who are in Poland.
I check the news online, the German news. I read the paper sometimes, and I do stay in contact. I talk to friends from Germany almost every other hour, so yeah, it doesn't feel like I'm away because and at work all the people are from Germany. So
at first, when I moved here, I enjoyed living here, and I didn't contact my friends as often as I do now. The longer I live here, the more homesick I feel. So now I have to go back to Poland every 3 months, otherwise I don't feel comfortable here.
I had many difficulties that I'm from East Europe. I really had to prove 5 times more my capabilities than the West European people.
When I moved to Vienna, I was happy to move to Vienna. This is something I wanted. But at the same time, I realized that it cost me more than I thought it would.
90% of my friends that came here because there was no jobs in Poland at that time, and now they stayed. They even shop for more expensive food, for Polish food here, because they refused everything was British.
I'm not home here, I'm not home there. I can feel that I am home here. I'm home where I live and where I am happy. That's I can live anywhere and be happy, but when I'm here, I miss some things from United States. And when I was in United States, I missed Czech home. I missed my home. So
I think everybody here who I spoke to, Poles, they feel a little bit lonely and they feel really homesick. The problem is we'll possibly never go back to Poland.
By leaving their country, migrants leave a void in the community. If the country in which they become established does not evolve and does not develop a new way of perceiving coexistence, migrants risk to remain absent also in their new society. In that case, migration creates a double absence, one in the country of origin and one in the host country. Is it possible to create happiness? Is it better to move bodies or to move prospects?
I came back because I got tired of US. Not the business, not what I did, but I got tired of the culture. I am from Czech and I kind of like European culture more than US culture.
Because after 1.5 years I decided that I will probably not stay forever. The excitement was already over.
In 2009, the Hungarian Academy of Sciences established a new scheme, a new fellowship scheme. This fellowship scheme was aimed at attracting back young researchers to Hungary. I mean, it may sound pretty ugly or pretty bad, but actually the key factor was that I was able to maintain a living standard like that in Australia, in Hungary. So, dirty money.
The question about going back to Italy is a tricky one. Obviously, I've been thinking about it all the time, and it comes back every 2 years. The opportunities here in London have been quite good for me, so I have tried to find something similar back in Italy. Unfortunately, with the big economic crisis 2 years ago, and generally with the political situation in Italy, the opportunities, I feel that the opportunities for young people are not as advanced over there. So all my efforts haven't returned any kind of concrete opportunity.
In future, I'm sure that I will move back to Germany. And because of family, my own family is in Germany and friends, and I do miss them, so I'm sure I will move back to Germany.
My reason to go back is that I'm not getting younger, and I like to be in the forest. I like to have nature around me. Like when I just go out of my doorstep, I want to have the woods around me, and that's a reason definitely for me to go back.
Migrants who come back, they don't have the networks which they had before. If you leave as a student and come back in 7 years, you don't have a real work experience in your country.
The social network is not the same abroad as in Hungary. I have my family, my friends here. I have my connections here.
I know plenty of Polish people. A lot of them trying to go back to Poland, but I know just one couple who decide to go back and stay there for long. Most of people are going to Poland for half a year or so. They're coming back to England. I think because of because of money, because of lack of work in Poland and difficult situation.
And I don't think that at the age of 35 you can build up the same social network in a new country as you already did it in your home country.
Migrants undergo a kind of transformation of identity. As Europeans, they are not really foreigners. They are not migrants for 100%. In a certain way, they are invisible. If they are seen as Europeans, they are not foreigners. But if they are perceived according to their original nationality, that is, as a German or a Pole or an Italian, they do become foreigners. Or, at the most, they are waiting for definition. Identity is the result of a series of decisions, either constructed or invented, and exists according to if there is a will to assimilate or to separate. European migrants are suspended between their own nationality and the construction of a European identity.
I feel personally not that I immigrated, because in this sense I have that feeling of we are one Europe. I didn't have to use a visa. I could just come here and start working. I didn't have any hustle paper-wise.
Europe is a very unique place in the world. You know, you travel 500 kilometers in Europe and you cross 10 countries with 10 completely different languages. You would drive 500 kilometers in Australia and the only thing you meet are kangaroos and, you know, nothing else.
Inside of my heart, I always be Polish, but I try to be European. Especially now, it's quite easier than it used to be. Being European means easily travel, but not physically, mentally travel from one country to another, to know how to respect the rights of other people in any country in Europe.
My instinct would be I'm Italian.
There is certainly a European identity. I mean, with my very special experiences from the Yugoslavian civil wars, I have a very strong emotion against strong national identities.
I feel myself more as a German, because I spent 25 years in Germany, but I do feel like London is my home.
Anytime you change a place, you're facing a new challenge, which is of course also an opportunity, but it's challenging.
I don't really identify with Europe as a whole, but I enjoy the benefits.
I feel European with people who are not from Europe, because when I'm, for example, in the Brazilian community, they see me as European, they not see me as German only.
After I moved here and I'm not living in my home country, I wasn't all that this much patriotic when I was living back there. I am now. Spending a lot of time with my kids to teach them Polish, even if they're only 3 or 2. I really look after them and I read to them. I speak to them exclusively in Polish. So to me, they're Polish, although I suffer because they speak to me in English mostly. And that's a big problem for me, for myself. I would love to be able to speak to my kids in my home native language, but at the moment it's not possible, because we have a childminders who are British, who are looking after them. They do a brilliant job, but still the communication and the language we speak at home is English. It's not Polish as all the other families. So I think it's twice much difficult for myself.
You know, I met some people who British people who ask me, listen, you are Polish, why do you take my job? Why do you, why are you coming here, you Polish people, and start changing? I said, listen, usually Polish people do job which you would never do. You would prefer to stay at home instead of, you know, doing those, let's say, difficult, dirty jobs.
I mean, to me, the European project, even the political and economic European project, always had another meaning, which was to unify the people. I think there is absolutely no point in creating even more barriers, even more cultural problems, because that's not the way the world is going. You know, if we have to live with globalization, at least let's try to you know, use it for positive reason.
People are experiencing a permanent dispersion. They've grown up with the idea that the state would take care of everything. But nowadays, if a person loses his job, the responsibility is only his and not society's. Everything falls back on the shoulders of the individual. We're all destined to be only individuals. The result is that we tend to become more afraid of others. The great question for the future is not what should be done, but who is going to do it? For fundamental questions, the individual can do only very little. The cause lies in the lack of trust, and this is again due to the incapacity of politics to introduce any changes. The lack of trust is a crisis of the means of action.
Italy, chaos, Great Britain, order. Hungary is a difficult place to, because Hungarian state is hard work. Life in Hungary is not great.
The more modern types of migration, and maybe that's what we call rather mobility, is rather new phenomenon of multi-local living and transnational working constellations, and producing their own spaces, and being more European than national, or being binational or multi-local or whatever. So it's getting more and more complex.
I think only a few people really cut their roots to the home region, so there always are connections to your home region and to your original region, even though you're living abroad, maybe in the US or somewhere else.
Sometimes I am a bit scared about the people talking about roots, because I think that, as somebody said, I don't remember who, we are not trees.
And I think that today people can develop roots also in a different manner. It does not necessarily mean that people only have one place where they are rooted. They can develop roots to different places.
I think that there's a difference of perspectives, because it's the point everybody is asking, where is my place in the world?
Really a rhetorical drama talking about migration. You know, migration is as old as humanity is by itself, so it's a really normal process. But in the last 20 years in Europe it began to become a problem, a perceived problem.
Of course, mainly people who just would like to find better job and improve the income, the salary abroad, like Polish people going to London, Dublin, however. But the difference is people from Germany or from Austria rather going abroad to US, Australia, however, to improve the professional position.
I think that the effort of European Union is this, overcome these differences.
For me, and I guess many people, happiness is very closely related with being at home. Always, even me coming back from any trip, like a very small migration, I keep in mind this Bruce Springsteen song, Sweet Home Alabama, coming home to you, so where the sky is so blue. That's why I think it's about happiness, this coming home, that's Bruce Springsteen song.
Nothing is preordained. History is a trace left in time as a consequence of various human choices which are hardly ever coordinated. The frontier areas, whether they are material or mental, are real battlefields, but they can also become creative laboratories of the art of living together. It can be a land on which seeds are thrown that may germinate and form future forms of humanity. What needs to be found is a way to the difficult art of living together. European migration is nearly invisible. It takes place almost unseen and develops layer after layer. The European nation is something to which still a form must be given. It must still be defined. An opening must be found where there was once just a wall.